Yes, I did. Was born in Guyana, South America. Came to America in the 70s. But I spent, as you can tell, I spent all my years up north in Brooklyn. I grew up with a family, that party a lot, we drink a lot, eat a lot, all types of food.
What was your first experiences with God? Like you knew God was in your life.
I always felt that God was in my life. I always felt I had a purpose. My dad lived with me and he passed away home with me. As a matter of fact, I was home, he passed away. Wake up in the morning, his sister was there, two sisters. And when I hear her cried out, Mark, Mark, I know he passed away.
How did that feel now, knowing that you're becoming a father, that you will be a father?
I remember it like it was yesterday. I grew up in a family home. Saying that means that I never wanted to have a child out of wedlock, because even at that age, I saw a lot of broken homes and father here, mother here, and stuff like that. I never was raised that way, and I didn't want it that way. Since I was on the both sides of the pendulum, being married and raising a family, let's put it that way, it's a big difference. Party a lot, you know what I mean? We used to drink a lot, you know what I mean? I love dancing, that was my thing. I'm the type of person, if I'm doing something, I'm like 110% doing it. Now my conversation, every time somebody calls me and we're talking, somehow I'm talking about Jesus. So the point, nobody want to call me anymore because, hey man, all this guy want to talk about to you is about God and Jesus. Nobody's calling me. And my phone used to ring off the hook.
All right, sons of God, welcome back. This is the first podcast episode on this channel. It's been a long time coming. First person I'm going to be interviewing today is my dad. This is Mark Wills, my father, and he's from Guyana, South America.
Yes.
And grew up in Guyana, then came to Brooklyn, New York, and grew up there. But I'm not going to give him all the details. I'm not going to share everything about him because he's going to do it himself and share his testimony today. And hopefully, inspire and advise other fathers out there, other young men out there, Christian, in their walk of life, because he's experienced a lot of things. So with that being said, it's my dad.
Hi, hello, son.
All right.
Yes, I'm glad to be the first to introduce the rest of the world to your podcast, which you'll be doing, I know, more frequently. Yes, I was born in Guyana, South America. I came to America in the 70s. But I spent, as you can tell, I spent all my years up north in Brooklyn. So that's where I really was growing up, from junior high all through, to college. And here I am today.
All right. Actually, I have some questions, and I'm going to be running through them with you. I know we both kind of nervous right now. This is the first podcast, and it's taking a long time to get this done. So finally getting it done. But first, we're just going to talk about how did you grow up? What was life like in Guyana and then transitioning over here to America, and what was, that life like as well?
Oh, well, growing up in Guyana, when I look back, I was pleased because first, my parents came over here first. They had to leave me in Guyana. I don't remember for how many years, but they left me in Guyana. And, in Guyana, I pretty much live in the country. Get to grow up climbing trees, picking old fruits, had my own little garden, had my pets and stuff like that. One time I had dogs, had cats, I had even a monkey I had at one time in Guyana. So it was a beautiful way of being raised. I didn't even have a TV. I never saw TV when I was in Guyana. I didn't even know what a TV looks like. But I did, did go to the movies when my dad was there before they left. Used to take me to the movies pretty much almost every weekend. I would go and see Chinese flicks, like Silver Fox. You probably don't know those guys and stuff like that. So that's what it was like growing up in Guyana. Have been my friends then. We would do bush cook, something called bush cook, which means everybody bring a little bit of something. So one bring the rice, so one bring the meat, so one bring the vegetables, so one bring the oil, so one brought the pot. And we have a little bush cook while we are playing cricket or kicking soccer, or swimming in the Essequibo River, because that was basically in my backyard, the Essequibo River. So growing up in Guyana was a real blessing, I would say, until, you know, my parents then came back, and then they brought me to New York, Brooklyn, and that was a transition that I didn't expect. You know, the first experience I had is when the kids them in school, when I realized they were so rude when the teacher asked, did you do your homework? And the way they would answer the teachers, you know, I thought, oh man, they're gonna get a whipping. Because in Guyana, you know, we get a whipping if we are late, if you don't know an answer to a problem, or the question the teacher may give you, you know, you get a whipping for that, either on your hands or your buttocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that transition, you know, it was a little bit for me, but, you know, I got used to it because I was young, and then, you know, you grow into it, and then you're like, oh, this is what it's like. And then over the years, you know, become more and more understanding with the way the structure is over here and the system. But I was never a religious person, you know?
Yeah.
I was always, you know, my family and I, we always keeping parties, or we always get like a bus ride or something like that.
Yeah.
So I grew up with a family, you know, that party a lot, we drink a lot, eat a lot, all types of food, you know, as you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. So what would you say then, like, what was your first experiences with God? Like, you knew God was in your life, or you had a sense of God in your life?
I always felt that God was in my life. Even though I wasn't living up to the standards that God, you know, put forth for us to live by, I always felt that way. I always felt I had a purpose. And I was always wondering, you know, because, you know, I grew up an only child, you know. So I always wondering, what is my purpose? Well, even though I'm partying or whatever, I said, no, God got something for me. But when it really came into play is when my, you know, my big adult days, and I believe now I'm in my mom passed away in 2008, you know. So I'm looking at when my mom was terminally ill, stage 4, lung cancer, never smoked a stick of cigarette in her life. And I had to deal with that because that was the same time I pretty much bought the home here in Georgia.
Yeah.
And it was being built at the same time. So I paid a substantial amount of money on the home, and I had to continue, you know, get ready because you guys going to be moving in. I was going to stay in New York, you know, working, and your mom was going to come to Georgia with you guys, and I just take care of the family while I, you know. But with that now being said, becomes stressful. Knowing my mom got stage 4 lung cancer, I had to go and visit her every day at the hospital. And I was working a shift from 3 to 11, 3 in the afternoon to 11 at night. And it's all the way up in the Bronx. Last stop, Woodlawn, you know. So.
And what kind of job were you doing, by the way?
Oh, yeah, glad you asked that. It was Sandhog. It was a Sandhog, which is a mining job, which means, you know, we dig the tunnels, you know. The Holland Tunnel, my union did that. All the subways and stuff like that, you know, that was my union. So even as we speak now, there's still some work, little work that's they're finishing up. We are supposed to be doing a tunnel from the West Side Highway over to New Jersey. But back on what I was saying, knowing that job, you know, I was an electrician at that point. And knowing my mom is sick, I had to go afternoon. So when I got off 11 at night, I go to the hospital because I was still optimistic. Then before I go to work, I had to go back in. Doctor wanted to see me, see they could try some new stuff, you know, new things, what have you. So my mom was alive for like at least over a month, a little over a month. So that was very stressful. And that is when I kind of call on God. I'm like, God, you know, I need your help. I need to be able to deal with all of this that is happening in my life. And he did. You know, so that's when I started getting a relationship with God, and I see how he was moving and how he strengthened me. So even when my mom passed away, I was able to deal with it. And then at least maybe almost 2 years later, my dad passed away, you know, which was different because my mom, when she passed away, first I got a call when I was at work, your mom is terribly ill. And that's when I went to the hospital and I found out she had stage 4 lung cancer. With my dad, he went and did some checkup or whatever. Then he got the results. Yeah, you got cancer as well. So, my dad lived with me and he passed away home with me. But my mom passed away in a hospice environment. So when I see he went out with the hospice, I said I was going to let that happen to my dad. So,
Yeah.
he passed away, while I was, matter of fact, I was home. He passed away. Wake up in the morning and his sister was there, 2 sisters. That's when I got help. And when I hear her cried out, I know he passed away. So when she called my name, Mark, and he passed away.
So, what would you say your relationship kind of was like with your father then?
Yeah. Mom and dad always had a good relationship. Me and my parents, we always had a good relationship. With my dad and stuff like that. My father was a very stern, no nonsense man. Anybody that knows him, they will tell you. He's not afraid of anybody. He's not intimidated by anyone. And my mom is the same way. I don't know how those 2 personalities click. And unfortunately, I am the same way. I have like a double dose of it. So I guess because I like to see how I can be doing God's work, because don't have that fear of losing your job, or, don't really care much if somebody's speaking, if they think negative about me, okay, it's a sense, but it wouldn't be the point like, oh, I'm being bothered by it, you know what I mean, or upset by it, or I'm happy, you know what I mean? I don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
So
So
my
you like
dad,
unfazed basically by like what people say, like it doesn't,
right,
it just passes over.
right, yeah. I never dwell on it. You know what I mean? I stop being someone, friend and stuff like that. Depends on how they're treating me, and I'll be like, okay, this is not somebody, you know what I mean, I'm going to be friends with or whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But my dad and my mom, you know what I mean, they're very kind, very hospitable, sincere. That's what I remember with my parents, and my dad. My dad, a very strong man in the household. He wasn't a timid person, a scared, because but dad was a police officer.
Yeah.
He was a police officer, and his father was a magistrate judge.
Yeah.
So so my family kind of tends towards law. So I have a lot of family members that is into law. It's, so it's kind of like in the genes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah. I know Uncle Kevin, he's not really into law, but he does what? Security?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Me, DeAndre, doing security right now and everything. So yeah, I can see that. So what was it like for you then when you had your first kid, your first child? How did that feel now, knowing that you're becoming a father, that you will be a father?
Oh, well, to be honest, at the time, because I was a very young age, I think maybe my last year in high school. I'm not even too sure.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a family home, which saying that means that I never wanted to have a child out of wedlock. So I didn't want a child, but my mom, being I was the only child, she was happy, she was encouraging it, you know. So, we went through the whole process, her being pregnant and going through, the doctor visits, all this type of stuff. And I was there for my daughter's birth, it was a beautiful thing. I remember it like it was yesterday, when my daughter came out, the doctors, nobody was there, it was just me and her mom, Yolanda. Except, there was a resident, I don't know if he was a resident, a white nurse, a white guy. And he kind of like froze and his eyes opened wide. He just came in to check and he was like, oh, the baby. But I was calm, and then I just ran out and I got someone, hey, then they came and, they helped brought Jennifer, out, and stuff like that. So, it was good. It's a difference. Like once the child is here, you know what I mean. Everything goes out the window. Okay, he didn't wanted a child out of wedlock. He wanted to be married. Because I wanted that child to be in a home with both parents.
Yeah.
Because even at that age, I saw a lot of broken homes, and father here, mother here, and stuff like that. I never was raised that way, and I didn't want it that way. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Didn't plan right. You know what I mean. Being promiscuous and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So end up having, being a daughter. But I mean, a beautiful, beautiful child. End up having, you know.
And how's Jennifer like right now so far? You
The,
know, you get
well,
to
well, Jennifer, she have other kids, you know what I mean? I have grandchildren. I only saw one, the first one, but I haven't seen the other, child, my other grandson. The first one was is a granddaughter. I haven't seen my grandson. So that kind of like hurts me a little bit,
yeah.
you know? That's where I'm kind of like disappointed or whatever, because I always have these images, when I'm a grandfather, how you're gonna treat your grandkids, you're gonna spoil them,
Yeah.
you're gonna have them on your lap, you know what I mean? Those kind of things and what have you. So that part, you know what I mean, is kind of like a real disappointment in my life, and that I'm very, sad about it.
Yeah.
But I always got to move on. It doesn't matter what happens. Their choice. You always got to move on. And I know you're probably going to talk about my other daughter, Isatis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Similar situation. You know what I mean? And her mother didn't thought she could get pregnant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. You know what I mean? And she ended up getting pregnant, to our surprise and what have you. And she kept Isatis because, again, I didn't want a child out of wedlock. Especially when I had the first one and what I went through with the first one, to even sometimes even have visitation. And of course I saw ECTs when she was a baby, but then the mother moved away and what have you, and so we just lost contact. What's going on? No cell phones and stuff back then, but there were phones, you could still call. And then I remember one time when the mother called and said, I want you to meet your daughter or whatever. Because she had told Isatis that, I can't remember what she told her. Either her dad passed away or he's somewhere, whatever. But Isatis had an uncle that was kind of pressing the issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially, his name is to the tip of my tongue. To be able to do Dolphus, I can't remember. He's going to probably come to me. You know what I mean? Nice guy. And so eventually, the mother decided, yeah, I'm going to tell her the truth. I remember meeting Izzy for the first time when she came to Brooklyn, and and we met up or whatever. You know what I mean? It was, and I could see my daughter saw my face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was excited. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Like I said, it's one thing when you said, yeah, you know what I mean, you want to have these plans. You know what I mean? And you don't want to have no child because you want the best for that child.
Yeah.
You want that child to grow up in the house. Here it is again, number 2. You know what I mean? So I was very disappointed in that. So those are like the 2 things in my life that sometimes I look back and like, man, because some people, even though they have a child and they separate, they still, be together in a way. But that wasn't the case, you know. So that's what, I mean, with ECT. So then ECT would come and Jennifer and her, you know what I mean? They would bond, and ECT was really looking for someone to bond with, and she's happy she had a big sister,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Jennifer, her, they got very close and stuff. I remember at the time when Jennifer was young, she had a friend who was a Muslim, and Jennifer started being a Muslim, and she would tie her, I forget what it's called, on her head.
Turban?
Yeah, like a turban, like on her head. But Jennifer would tie so tight, she make her eyes comes back like this, like a Chinese chicks. You know what I mean? She liked that look.
Yeah.
I remember her doing that. The ECTs, you know what I mean, would be following her where she come down, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was good, And Jennifer, when Jennifer started to get older, this just came in my mind. That's when I met your mom, and we went to a, what's the store? It was a carrier, cell phone now, cell phone was in Metro PCS, I believe it was, downtown Brooklyn. And we were getting a phone, and Jennifer was looking for a phone as well, or whatever. And the guy that was working there, when Jeff was calling me, she said, Daddy, because, Jeff is mixed with Spanish as well. And the guy asked her, he said, "So that's your daddy, or is that your sugar daddy?" You know, and she came back and she was complaining. She like, "Dad, what you believe what you just said to me?" Or whatever. I was like, "What?" She asked me, "That's my daddy, that's my sugar daddy." So I was taking that laugh, you know what I mean? Because I kind of look young too.
Yeah.
You know, I never really I look my age, you know what I mean? I always look at least 10 years younger and stuff like that, but that's what people say and stuff like that. So she was like, you know what I mean? We're just calling daddy and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so that was hilarious.
Yeah. So what are some things then that you've noticed, you know, from following God now in regards to like being a father, in regards to being a father right now, you know, just looking at how God's just been blessing you, you know, through fatherhood, and like what are some like the ups and downs that you've experienced, you know, in your time of being a father, and things that, you know, a lot of most men, or let me not say most men, but like a good amount of men, they have experienced, you know, in fatherhood, or, you know, trying to be a father right now. Just what are some things that you think you can relate to in regards to like any struggles, you know, any highlights, you know, in your walk?
Okay, yeah, well, since I was on the both side of the pendulum, you know, I had both experience of the world, because I was really in the world. I used to party a lot, you know what I mean? We used to drink a lot, you know what I mean? I love dancing, that was my thing,
Yeah.
you know, and stuff like that, and sports. You know, I was a very outgoing, energetic person, you know. And when, you know, being married and raising a family, let's put it that way. You know what I mean? Separate from, you know, just being, you know what I mean, someone's dad, and not really being a relationship, I should say, with them, not having that type of relationship that I would have loved to have, you know what I mean, a father and, you know what I mean, his child, his children, or what have you. You know what I mean? It's a big difference, right? Now, when your mom met me, like I said, I was still in the world, whatever. And I look back and I told her, you know, because your mom was raised in the church, you know, she's a Seventh-day Adventist. But I understand Seventh-day Adventists, you know what I mean, what they stand for. But I let her know, I said, listen, I know, you know, thinking we're getting married, but I'm going to tell you right now, you know, I like to party, I like to drink, I like to go out. I'm not changing. I just let you know right now.
Yeah.
I am not changing. This is who I am. You know what I mean? And I was dead serious about it. You know what I mean? And she's like, I understand. I'm not going to try to make you change. I said to you, no, I eat all kinds of food. Because if there's offenders, you know what I mean? They don't eat certain food, all this type of stuff. You know what I mean? I said, you know, I love my pork, my shrimp, my all kinds of food. You know what I mean? I says, I don't want no headaches. When we get married, now you're trying to tell me, you're going to still do this, you're going to still do that. So I was just clear, and so I thought I'd be reminding her, you know? So, but this how great God is, you know?
Yeah.
So when now, with the experience with my mom, you know, like I was saying earlier, and I'm drawing closer and closer. It's raining today now. And I'm getting closer and closer with God, a relationship with God. And you guys is in Georgia. And I was coming to Georgia, every other weekend. That's how I was visit. Every other weekend, I would come to Georgia. And I would have to take the train, because I was going to a church, Kingsborough, in Park Slope. You know what I mean? And that seems like nothing. Sometimes I mean, I want to go. But slowly but surely, I was being weaned off of all the excitements of the world. Because the more I start to study the Word of God, the more I start to engage in the Word of God, is the more I find myself disliking, having a distaste for the world. And I love music. And I remember sometimes, you know me, I was still going to parties, but eventually, like some songs the DJ played, it just cutting through me, you know? And then eventually, and I love to dance, I can't dance, I can't move, I'm just standing around and I'm looking. Eventually I'm like, okay, why am I here? You know, I'm not having no fun. And if people are accustomed to you being the party, you the party. You know what I mean? I just want the party just going out to party. No, I was the party. I went to parties and people saw me partying. and invite me to their party, and they don't even know who I am. They were like, listen, man, I have a party, just come at the door. You don't have to pay. Whoever your friends you come with, that's who I was.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm just standing there, and everybody's looking at me like, yo, what's wrong? You know what I mean? So eventually, I had to stop going. I had to stop partying.
Yeah.
You know, that, you know what I mean? That's what happened and whatever. So as I started, so I become closer with Christ before, I bonded more and more, form a relationship. And, I'm the type of person, if I'm doing something, I'm like 110% doing it.
Yeah.
So as I'm getting more closer with Christ, I started, no, I'm not going party anymore. I stopped drinking, you know what I mean? I stopped eating certain meat food. I didn't stop eating meat food, but certain meat, like the pork, the shrimp, or whatever. Now I started following, the 7-day kind of a diet, have you, and I'm becoming more and more at one with Christ. And now my conversation, every time somebody calls me and we're talking, somehow I'm talking about Jesus. You know what I mean? And I never even spoke about Sharon that way, or my exes that way, or anybody that way that was in my life. You know what I mean? I never like somebody said, oh man, I gotta tell you this. But I was doing that with Jesus. To the point nobody want to call me anymore because, hey man, all this guy want to talk about to you is about God and Jesus. Nobody's calling me. And my phone used to ring off the hook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So nobody's calling me. I'm like there all by myself now. You know what I mean? Me and God, you know what I mean? Up north, you know what I mean? Then I come down here, you know what I mean? See you guys, you know what I mean? Every other weekend, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So the journey, you know what I mean? Journeying to become at one with God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can be an uphill battle.
Yeah.
Because the enemy of souls, Satan wasn't enjoying it one bit. You know what I mean? So he was putting all kinds of obstacles in my pathway, a lot of temptations, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So that was a way. Now with this thing, the advice I give guys now that trying to raise a family, maybe trying to raise a child, or whatever it is, I would say, put God first. You know what I mean?
Well, specifically, kind of, if you can, because before I wanted to do this interview with you, I did get a couple guys that are fathers that I know, you know what I mean, that aren't necessarily close to Christ like that, like where I was working at. And they had some questions that they wanted me to ask you, and like specifically how you were saying, like even out of wedlock, like do you think it's all the same umbrella in a sense on how to deal with, being a father and how to live your life as a father, or do you think it's more specific in the way that, you did have, your child come about, whether it's through like marriage and then a family, or is it, or like out of wedlock, you might have had children, like, is there any differences that you might see in that, or on how to go about being a father, or?
Well, out of wedlock and being married is different. And I'll tell you one of the main reasons why, because when you have a child out of wedlock, being a father, it's pretty much you almost have zero rights until you go through the courts. You know what I mean? Because I remember one incident, my daughter, but this is Jennifer's mom now, and Jennifer I'm talking about. I remember one incident when I was supposed to have Jennifer, for the weekend or whatever. And her mom, there have been several times, quite a few times, when I'm supposed to have Jennifer, and I will go to get her, and the mom will be like, oh, she's at a party, or my friend took her to somebody party. And this is even when Jennifer's just still, in the cradle, if you want to say that, right? Wasn't even walking or anything like that.
All right, guys, before we play the video again, just want to let you know that at this point in the video, my dad's camera actually shut off. So you're not going to be seeing my dad's face. I did turn back on the camera a few minutes later, but my camera was the only one rolling. So you're just going to see my face. So what I'm going to do at this part is just not show anyone. We're just going to hear the podcast. We're just going to hear the interview. And then, of course, I'm going to just go ahead and put back on the segment when you see both of us again. But for this part, the camera did shut off and I didn't notice. So what we're going to do is just have this part just be straight audio, and then we're going to resume. And I'll probably put the timestamp of when his camera was turned back on again. All right. Thanks. I hope you guys are enjoying.
Yeah.
You know, and these things used to hurt me, you know what I mean, to the core, to my heart, you know what I mean. And I remember another guy, people was around my age, maybe a little older than I was, and he said to me, "Stop showing you care so much." You know what I mean? Stop showing you care so much. So I practiced that. And then I remember the mother called me like a month later, said, "Oh, you have to if you don't care about your daughter or whatever." You know what I mean? But I did care. It was burning me up inside. But I'm trying something new.
Yeah.
You know? I said, "Oh, that's not that." Every time, you know what I mean? She got something to do. And she's a baby. What she know about birthday parties and all this nonsense? You know what I mean? And stuff. So I remember when she brought her one time again, and I was still living at 919 Park Place. You know, still in an apartment, being my parents. And something happens, I can't remember exactly what, that her mother wanted. And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Well, give me back Jennifer." I said, "No, I'm not giving you her back." You know what I mean? So I refused to give her back.
Yeah.
And she left the apartment. She came back, can't remember how much minutes later, 2 officers was at the door.
Yeah.
They said, "So you more? Yeah, that's Jennifer, that's her daughter?" I said, "Yes, it's my daughter too." They're like, "Okay." They're like, "But she said she want her daughter to take her." I said, "Yeah, but I'm supposed to be having her this weekend. You know, I'm explaining or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, "Do you have court papers or anything like that?" You know what I mean? That says, so I said, "No, but I'm the father." You know, when we already agreed that she's going to be with me for the weekend. They said, "Well, even though she changed her mind now, she have the right to do that." And they just took Jennifer right out of my arms. She said to handle it. And they took the baby out of my arms and give it to, you know what I mean, her mom. So then, then I really felt like, damn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have no type of, you know what I mean, rights here or whatever. So being a father out of wedlock, having a child, there are some challenges, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then the mother can, unless you have real court papers or whatever, you know what I mean? The mother could pull these type of stunts or what have you. She's mad at you or whatever it is. And, you know, a lot of times Jennifer mom was young too anyway. You know what I mean? She wasn't much sure like that.
Because y'all both how old? Like what? In your 20s? Like y'all like both in your 20s, right?
The early, yeah, because they're like early 80s. You know what I mean? Real early 80s. You know? That happened. You know what I mean? So I'm looking, I probably was like 1920, I would say. 1920. Not even, I wouldn't even say my 20s, like 1920. That's how young I was.
Yeah.
You know? So when you're trying to be a father, you know what I mean? Your relationship don't even start with your child out of wedlock. Your relationship starts with the baby mother.
Yeah.
That's who the relationship starts with. You know what I mean? And if you or her is good, y'all on good terms or whatever, you know what I mean? There's very few young ladies I have seen in my time, you know what I mean? But nevertheless, none of them ever took me to court, you know what I mean? So, "Oh, I'm taking you to court for child support," or any stuff like that, you know what I mean? None of them never did that, you know what I mean? They never took me to court for child support. Not Yolanda, not Tessa, you know what I mean? And because there are times, I wasn't working, I tried to get my life together and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So they did a good job on raising these 2 girls, you know what I mean? Pretty much financially, you know what I mean? With stuff or whatever. But if you don't have a good relationship with that mother
the mother
of that child, it could be a costly experience or upbringing for the child and you and that child relationship as well. So I believe the relationship starts first with the baby mother, with the child's mother. I don't want to say baby mother, with the child's mother, and then, you know what I mean, with the child and stuff like that. And if you also, and what makes it even tougher, if you're in another relationship, because now the child's mother may not want the other person being around her child. So now you got to know how am I going to navigate this now? You know what I mean? Have a relationship here. You might be living with the person too. Who knows? You know what I mean? And she's like, "Oh, I don't want this person influencing my child," especially if the person you're with is more successful with the child's mother. You know what I mean? Maybe she got a lot of going on positive in her life because kids, they don't know. They don't think And they will come home to the mother, hey, mommy, guess what? You know, she took me here and she bought me this and this and we had a good time. Blah, blah, blah. And mom is like, she's not liking that, you know? So it's a challenge, you know? But when you're married, you know, you ain't got to worry about the court papers or whatever. You got your rights, you know what I mean? You're the father there as well. You're both in the home. You have a voice, you know what I mean? Or whatever. You're supposed to be the head of the household, which means you got to establish your your manly purpose, your manly position in the household. You know, there's a lot of guys walking around thinking in their head that, you know what I mean, a happy wife is a happy life. You know what I mean? They're yes men. You know what I mean? You know, I don't want to make Mama Dukes upset. I don't want to this. And empowering these women. A lot of these women are good women, but some of these men, they have this way of thinking and they make women think now that they have so much power over these men to the point that these men are being submissive instead of the woman being submissive. Instead of they taking their leadership role. You know, I'm not saying to be a dictator and stuff like that, but that's just for instance, let's use this room for example, and we decide, okay, we're gonna get some chairs or whatever, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Y'all, she said she want red, you'd be like, red? You know what I mean? Let's meet something, another mix your color, but she's still on red. You know what I mean? And you're like, no, I think a mix your color would be better, like a brown or whatever. You know what I mean? You're the man of the house. You know what I mean? Unless you really don't care, you know what I mean? But if you care or you really care, then I'm not putting no red couch, you know what I mean, in our home. You should stand for that, you know? But a lot of men, you know what I mean, they don't wear the pants. They take the pants off and they give it to the woman. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what they do. So the women that was wearing the pants and these guys is walking around, you know what I mean, trying to be all manly and talk like if they're man. But when you go in their house, you know what I mean? They have zero.
Shows.
Right. You know what I mean? And then when they're raising the children, you know what I mean? The children are seeing this, especially they have a boy, child. You know, because seeing his dad being submissive and being a yes man to his mother, you know, that what happens. Then if they have a girl child, she wants to grow up to be ruling and ruling over whoever man she meets as well. So like a domino effect. So I would say, you're a man and you want to know how to raise it. First, understand your role, your spiritual role. You know what I mean? As a man, and be that man in that relationship that you have, whether it's outside of a marriage or whether it's in your marriage, you know what I mean? Outside your marriage, you have less of a voice, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, especially the child is not living with you. You know, you got to go to the courts and all of that. But if you're married, you're supposed to be the one, you know what I mean? The leader, the protector. And it doesn't matter because, you lost your job now and she's working for more money than you. It doesn't change, you know? It's not about intellect, you know? It's not about who have more money, who's making more money. It's about gender. You know what I mean? And I was raised that way even before I even came into the church. I'm now into the church and I see that's how God set up. God is a God of order. And that's how he sets up the order. Like Christ is the head of the church, you know what I mean? And we're the head of our household, you know. That's how it's supposed to be. That's why if the father passed away, anything happened to the father, they have sons or whatever, the firstborn, usually the one now that have to be leader, have to be the one to take on that male role, if you want to put it that way.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So the top advice then you probably say for somebody that recognizes this, right? That you know, they unfortunately like your situation, you know, with Jennifer and Isatis, like they did have children out of wedlock, but they're trying to be on that right path now. Like you would just say for them to mainly just focus on the Lord, focus on God, and build up that relationship then?
So your question is if they had a child out of wedlock or
like suppose just like how you were saying, right? You had children out of wedlock.
Right.
you know, and then now you're on the path to like following God,
Yes.
you know, and let's say there's some brothers out there, some men out there that also have went through, you know, your same similar situation, and they're trying to, and they recognize that, and they're trying to now not only have that relationship with their children, but, you know, build up themselves now. Like, what would be like the number one thing then that you probably, you know, just tell them in regards to that, like just trying to fix the
The
things that,
relationship
yeah,
that they
the things
had
that, yeah,
wrong, that didn't go right in their relationship, that they had child out of wedlock.
yeah,
I would say because they will have to start seeing like where the derailment of the relationship took place. You know what I mean? Like what went wrong, why we're not you know having the relationship, mutual relationship, so we can help bring up our child. You know what I mean? Together and stuff like that. Because while even though my relationship with the mothers wasn't that great or whatever, you know what I mean, I was still trying to raise, you know what I mean, my children. Let's be talking about the ones out of wedlock. You know what I mean, the way I was raised, which means I wasn't compromising.
yeah,
You know, I remember once I had to get Jennifer a spanking. You know what I mean? A couple of times she got a spanking from me. You know, because maybe because I'm Caribbean and I'm so, you know what I mean. This is right. This is wrong. You know what I mean. I'm not gonna bend because I'm not getting to see you as often that I should. And when you come by me, I will allow you to get away with things that if you were we living together, I wouldn't allow you to get away with. You know?
yeah,
Because the way I saw it, you know what I mean? I'm trying to raise you to be the best person you can be.
yeah,
Is not raising you at the same time trying to say, well, you know what? I want us to have, I'm gonna let her slide with this or whatever because I want to see her again. To me, that's a selfish act.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So she may not have seen it at that time. You know, I remember Jennifer came to live with me a couple of times. Well, put it that way. Even after my mom passed away, and I'm just there in the house alone in Brooklyn or whatever, you know, she came. She was married. You know what I mean, and that's how I got to, my granddaughter, and so forth and so on. You know, and she's my daughter. She had drinking, what do you call it? Drinking over, you know what I mean? She's her girlfriends, they get together and they're drinking or whatever. But I'm not in the church, so I didn't care. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. I see a lot of me in her, even the way she drives. You know what I mean? Very aggressive, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. Her temper, all of that, you know what I mean? I saw a lot of me in Jennifer, you know. So, but when she was raised up and she came to live with me when she was younger, I can't remember when she was a teenager. And she left to go and visit a friend, you know what I mean? First of all, I had to know, who's this friend? Where's this friend? Then she told me all the friends in East New York, the street, whatever. I was like, she been, yeah, I always go over there. My mom let me go over there and whatever. I'm like, okay, because right away I'm thinking, okay, I don't know who this friend is. I don't even know what they look like. I don't know what the house is. I don't know who living in the house. You know what I mean? That's how my brain is working. If anything happened, I know who to come after.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know none of this stuff. But anyway, she left as she went, you know, she left in the afternoon time. 8 o'clock at night, no Jennifer. No, I'm not accustomed to that. 9 o'clock, no Jennifer. You know, I called the mother. The mother's like, oh, she said, well, let's talk about the friend. And there's a, I said, yeah, but, you know, I'm not seeing her. You know what I mean? 10 o'clock, no Jennifer. So I went over. Her mother told me exactly where. You know what I mean? They said, oh, Jennifer was there, but she left. She went to go somewhere else. I said, left to go somewhere else. Like, where? You know what I mean? Are you kidding me? No, I'm worried.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's summertime, and I'm worried. I can't sleep. So next thing you know, I go home, no Jennifer still. I went, you know, they were living in Bushwick,
Yeah.
on Bushwick Avenue at the time. We went, you know what I mean, there to Bushwick, me and her mom talking outside downstairs. I think it was like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, I don't remember what time it was. It was late.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, the boy said, "Oh, there goes Jennifer." You could see straight on Bushwick Avenue, a couple blocks, crossing. And the mother screamed at Jennifer. When Jennifer looked, I guess you could see that I was there too. Jennifer just took off and went somewhere else. Never came to her mama's, never came to my house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how, you know what I mean? She know like, okay, my guy got to bust my butt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I guess that's normal for her. I guess live with her mom. But for me, that was not normal at all.
Yeah.
You know, so that was something that I remember I had to deal with when she came to live by me. You know, which I was pleased and was happy. You know, and stuff like that.
So just still like being disciplined, you know what I mean? Even though that separation may be there, it's just still
Right, you still have a
sticking to the
right to
grounds.
discipline your child. They might be mad with you and angry with you at the time, but now, I remember a couple of years ago, you know, when before we left to go do missionary work, you know, speaking to Jennifer, because, you know, they always try to come together, Jennifer, Issa Tees, to come and see us, you know, for the last cycle. I remember we was going away, you know, to live permanently. And Jennifer, you know, we were talking, we had a good conversation. I say, you know, that, because, you know, my granddaughter grew up now. Now she wanted to do sleepovers and all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Now she finds herself acting like me. You say, you know, that now I see, you know what I mean, what you were saying and what you was going through, because now she and her daughter, they're catching it. You know, because she is not alone, and the daughter's like, why not? It's my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes for your child to grow up and become a parent. And then they're going to look back and then they'll be like, whoa, this is what my parent was thinking and feeling
Yeah.
at the time, while I thinking they're just being mean and insensitive, you know?
Yeah.
So that was good, you know what I mean, to know. And one more point I wanted to touch on, this is when she was younger too, even before she got married, you know what I mean? She's like a teenager still. One time I remember the phone rang and she's like, Daddy. I was like, what is it? She said, Dad, this boy, you know, she didn't tell the whole truth. She said, this boy, he's outside of my friend's house and he wouldn't let me leave to go to work. And I got to go to work. And he's out there, he wouldn't let me leave to go to work. I said, what's the address? You know what I mean? She tells me the address. I jump in my car. That's when my boy Cleave, he was still alive, you know? So me, Cleave, and my mother saw my facial expression. My mom was like, wait, I'm coming. My mom, she didn't have time to even get dressed because I got my keys and I was out the door. And she hopped in the car. I got there. I wasn't even thinking. You know what I mean? These two young guys that were sitting on the steps is one of them. Because they sat down there so casual, like nothing or whatever. I don't know what I was thinking. I expect maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I came up there, I come out the car, you know what I mean? And I said, excuse me, you guys know what apartment Jennifer is that or whatever? The guy said, yeah, the first floor right here, the first bell. Sorry, thanks. Walk past him, went and pressed the doorbell. She comes to the door, and I said, so yeah, who is it? You know what I mean? Because I guess maybe I thought the person was still in the apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
She's like, Daddy, you just walked past him right there. He was sitting, when I turned around, it was like ghosts. You know what I mean? They were gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I come sleep center. I thought it was there because, when you walk by, they just sneak off the, you know what I mean?
Off the stool.
And we're gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we talk about that, and she said, so the country fighters it was a boyfriend of hers, you know me, he was in a gang, I think he was in the Bloods, and all this type of stuff, you know what I mean? Because there's a long story, because my mom made her go to the police to file a report. That's when the truth came out. She didn't really want to file a report on him, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't have the address and stuff, so we came back around now, because he lived on the same block.
Oh.
You know what I mean? When I came back around, he was sitting on somebody's car, you know, on the hood. And the friend he was with saw me, because his friend is facing the traffic the one way, but he was backing it. And his friend was like, yo, they're coming to get what. So he got off the car when I parked. He got off the car, he's walking away. And he's walking a little fast forward. I said to him, don't even try to run. Don't even run, because he's not going to outrun me. You know what I mean? So we get into this yard. I go in this yard behind him. And, you know, he's trying to be macho and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But I'm a man, no, but that's big and strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is hands also. But then there was another guy there, older gentleman, you know what I mean? Who was trying to calm me down, you know? And I said, listen, all I gotta say is one thing. But I didn't realize I had the other older gentleman's hand. You know what I mean? I was holding his hand with such aggression. He can't move, you know? He had told me, said, yo, my man, my hand, please, my brother. You know what I mean? You're holding my hand hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't realize it. So I'm like, oh. You know what I mean? So I stepped to him. Then his other friend, you know what I mean? They had a knife under some pots with plants or whatever. Pull out the knife, and my mom is I said, Mom, you just go in the car. You know what I mean? Me and Cleave, I said, so I just gotta see what I gotta see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I gave him some choice words, and I let him know. I said, don't let me come back. That's all I had to do. That's all I tell him. Say, you see me coming back, you better run. Don't let me come back. You know?
Yeah.
So the next time I spoke to Jennifer, she said, Daddy, you know, he broke up with me. He said, your father's crazy. You know what I mean? So, you know, we broke up. She said, so, because when she was there in the apartment, she was like, who can I call? You know what I mean? That would come and get me out of this mess. Whatever happened between her. She said, oh yeah, let me call my dad. So that's why she called me, you know, me and stuff like that. So.
And that shows the importance of, you know what I mean, strength right there.
Right.
You know what I mean? To be dependent on, especially in times of need and, you know, trouble and stuff as well. You know?
Yeah, that was good, even though she didn't grow up in the home with me and stuff like that. But she know my disposition, you know what I mean? She know my attitude and stuff like that. So that's why she was like, you know, who can I call?
Yeah.
She said, oh yeah, let me call my dad. You know what I mean? And she called me. I stopped, you know, you never mess with her again. I think anybody has ever messed with her, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. You know, you're like, yo, man, your dad is crazy. You know?
Some issues. Yeah. So now touch on like, you know, like the Christian side now in regards to, you know, understanding your walk with God more. Like, what are some lessons, even in the Christian life now, that you've had to see or just learn, you know, during this walk? Because obviously it's not an easy walk we've been through.
Well, yeah,
Stuff.
well, you got to start unlearning certain things in your life, you know, that you're accustomed to, that you pretty much live and breathe. You know, growing up in Brooklyn, you know, that's no East Side. I grew up as an only child. So I had to, you know what I mean? And like I said, my parents, you know what I mean? I never liked people picking on me or taking advantage of me, you know, those type of stuff, you know? So, and people are with my friends, my crew, my family, whatever, we all the same way, you know, same mentality and whatever. You know, we go out, we all live together. Nobody's running away and leaving anybody anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I grew up at a time when gunshots always ringing out in parties. You know what I mean? You're talking Legend. You're talking, oh my gosh, I can't even remember these club names no more. You know? You used to go to Billboard Ballroom, Starlight Ballroom. There's a spot, you know what I mean? The spot, Love People One. I'm trying to remember. Love People One was in close to Empire, on the hill. I think that was Love People One. You know, I'm trying to remember. I remember that name. You know what I mean? Always some gunshot, somebody getting shot or killed or murder. You know what I mean? You know. So I remember being in parties.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And gunshot ring out. And it doesn't matter how big it is.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like the person's right next to you. You know what I mean? So you feel like taking off and running.
Yeah.
But when you did these scenarios so many times, you know, you just hold a collar, you just duck. Because you can be running right into the gunman, you don't even know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the way it sounds, it doesn't tell you exactly where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Because don't forget loud music playing too. You know? And the place is dark.
Yeah.
You know? So you could be running right into the gunshots and stuff like that. Next thing you know, you come out, you hear so much people get shot. When you read on the news the following day that you hear this body get killed, this, that. And that was normal. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's normal. That was normal. You know? So that was how I used to live. So now coming to a Christian walk, you know what I mean? You're still hearing certain music and sounds in your ears. You know what I mean? I have to like deprogram my mind where you see certain women, you know what I mean? Try not to admire them and, you know what I mean? Start lusting after them. Oh, she got a shape, this, all this type of stuff. You know what I mean? That was the last, I was going to say the last, but that was one of the hardest things, you know what I mean? To start erasing out of my mind, you know? Then I remember someone said, you know, the first look is for God, but if anything after that, no, you start lusting and being selfish, you know? And then there's another thing that I learned too, that another thing I learned too is that don't dwell on it. You know what I mean? Because we on the belt line now, we see what the belt line looks like. You know what I mean? It's like worse than being on the beach, you know? And, you know, you're looking, I got to stay focused on my message. You know what I mean? And don't dwell it. Because I see something like, what in the world? You know, you know, distraction. You know, Satan will keep coming. You know what I mean? But you just got to be determined. You know what I mean? And just don't dwell on anything. You know what I mean? You see it, but don't dwell on it. You know? Just stay in your message. So transitioning into being a Christian and accepting Christ and reflecting that character and being out there in that world, it takes some work and it takes a strong will. You know what I mean? Your will got to be strong and you got to be very, very and truly disciplined because Satan doesn't give up. You know what I mean? He would keep coming at you. And being here in Georgia, here, it's a lot easier for me than being in New York and being in Brooklyn. Right? Because even when I went back,
No, I was saying why? Like, why you say that?
Because whether, you know, me and your brother went to Brooklyn for, you know, our cousin's 60th birthday party. And just being in Brooklyn and walking the streets, you know, going to get some stuff there or whatever. There is so much going on, you know what I mean, that wants to pull you away. But being here in Georgia, I don't go no place. You know what I mean? I'm here, I go to church, I go to Bethlehem. If I leave here, I'm going to wash the car, or I'm going to the grocery store, Walmart, or one of them, or stuff like that. I am not going anywhere. You know what I mean? But in Brooklyn, you can find somewhere to go. You can jump on the train and jump on the bus, you know? But being here is not as active as being in Brooklyn.
Access as well, you probably say. Like, not easily accessible.
Right. You know what I mean? And being in Brooklyn, you walk outside, you're in the elements of the world. You know what I mean? But being here, you know what I mean? We here, we walk outside, you know what I mean? It's like a gated complex, you know what I mean? And stuff like that, you know, in the elements, you know what I mean? And people don't walk around here like that. Everybody's pretty much in their car. So you're not seeing, you know what I mean, as much. When we start seeing crazy things now is when we start getting on the belt line. You know what I mean? That's when it's like, whoa, you know? So it's much easier for me being here. But like the question, you know, in terms of your transitioning, being a Christian and coming from the world, it takes a lot of prayer, you know what I mean? It takes God's help because you can't do it on your own. You definitely can't do it on your own. You know what I mean? You know, because you got to stop watching certain things. You know what I mean? You stop watching certain movies, certain music. You know what I mean? Even your conversations, you know what I mean, are different and so forth and so on. And what I noticed, you know, maybe, you know, we have a family group chat. They were some of my cousins and stuff that we used to hang out or whatever. They would post, you know what I mean, some things that are spiritual, you know what I mean? Whether it's right or wrong, they're posting it. So that also shows that their mind too, you know what I mean, is started to be more and more getting, you know what I mean, in the word of Christ. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And strangely, what I wanted to say, like a couple of years ago, you know, when I, you know, started my walk, one of my cousins, you know what I mean? I don't know how come you said that, you know, but he looked at me, he said, man, I love you, man. I really love you. I'm like, okay, thanks. You know what I mean? Because my parents never tell me they love me. You know what I mean? So the only people I used to constantly, you know, be telling me they love me, like my girl, you know what I mean? I didn't even know how to react to that. You know what I mean? So he turned to me like, yo, man, I'm serious, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really love you, man. You know what I mean? And that resonated with me, but I didn't know how to react with that. You know what I mean? I was like, text, you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know what I mean? Then when at this other party again, you know, my cousin, you know, so my cousin, even my brother, man, yo, man, I love you, man. You know what I mean? And then my cousin Chip, you know what I mean? Say to me the same bye, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. You know, man telling, you know, oh, I really love you, whatever. So I would say to myself, man, am I gonna die, God? You know what I mean? And stuff like that. They don't even know it, but they just express it to me. You know what I mean? Yo, Mark, man, I really love you, whatever. Because these are people that I was really close to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, you know, we always, you know, interact with each other. You know what I mean? Always had an excellent relationship. You know what I mean? These are people that, you know, I treated that as though they were my brothers, you know, and stuff like that. You know, then, you know, my brother as well, you know what I mean? He expressed, you know, how much, you know, he was on his face. I thought he was going to cry. That he's so sorry he didn't make it for my 60th birthday party, you know? So I was like, I mean, like this, man, it was okay, man. It's a party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We still have each other. You know, I understand, you know what I mean? I'm over in Georgia, you know, you trying to get yourself together, money ain't right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Money ain't right to me either, otherwise I would have paid for you to come, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. You know, just as long as, you know, we understand each other, we still have a relationship,
Yeah.
you know.
So what's some benefits, you know, so far from, you know, following Christ that you've noticed, you know, some differences in regards to like good things that you've seen, whether that's in like your character, you know, health wise, just any of those things.
Okay.
You know, what's some things you noticed?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, the benefit is like endless. You got to start practicing. Actually, practice. You got to start putting in your life. You know what I mean? Christ, His Word, and His teaching, because Christ have laws even for your health.
Yeah.
You know, even for how you eat, dietary laws. You know, laws that govern your body. All these things. As I change my diet, you know what I mean? I can see how my body feels much different. You know what I mean? My mind is much different. My brain is much different. My memory is much, you know what I mean? Because my memory was starting to get shot, it seems, you know?
Yeah.
You know, my memory got better or whatever. You know, just because we are not just, like you said before, we are not here just being vegan or being plant-based, you know what I mean? It's a dietary plan, you know what I mean? For our body.
Yeah.
You know,
Really a lifestyle.
right. You know what I mean? It's a lifestyle. The benefit also in terms of not allowing, you know, and that's something I had to learn, things are happening to you in your life, your problems and challenges, you know, because I'm accustomed to being in control, you know? I'm accustomed to be in control of my life or certain situations, and if I'm not, or if somebody's giving me a hard time, you know what I mean? Then I'll be like, you know what, I'm not dealing with that issue or that person, you know what I mean? But I had a lot of patience. But being, you know what I mean, with God, you learn that He's the one that is going to take care of your issues and your problems.
Yeah.
And I recognize that because I wasn't taking notes of what He's trying to teach me, He keep bringing certain issues and problems to me.
Yeah.
And then eventually I start learning, you know what I mean? Leave it in God's hands. You do what you can, but you leave it in God's hands or whatever. So I stopped worrying, you know what I mean? I stopped letting myself get caught up and get upset and getting angry, being stressed out, like really being stressed out, you know what I mean? Over things that is not going right. You know what I mean? Maybe things not going right in the home or not going right with whatever it was. Literally being stressed out over it. You know what I mean? And that was new to me. You know? So you see, lose my hair, you know what I mean? All the type of stuff. Yeah, you know. So now it's kind of coming back a little bit. You know what I mean? Why? Because I'm not letting stuff stress me out no more. You know? I know what I want. I pray to God. You know what I mean? He said, whatever you want, you know what I mean? Come on to Him. You know? He will give it to me in due time.
Yeah.
And if he don't, you know,
Still
I say
serving.
going to continue with life. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned is that being able to allow yourself, you know what I mean, to grow more and more spiritually with God and learn more and more as you go along that path. Because as you continue, and don't let the enemy derail you or distract you or pull you away from God, you'll become more and more at one with Him. And I can see it and I can feel it because I can see I have more and more spiritual discernment. I start to hear God's voice even more, know when He's speaking to me, know when He's giving me guidance, knowing when He's with me, you know, what He wants me to do for myself, for the household, my family, even though you guys might be against it or whatever. But if God is saying it, I am doing it. And it doesn't matter, you know, because heaven is my goal, and I want this to be my family goal as well. I want to see all my family, you know, my, you know, and children in heaven, you know. But I got to lead that path as well. I got to show that I can't be a hypocrite, you know. So the benefit of being at one with God and family relationship with Him, like I talked about, you know, with my mother, you know, also how it helped me go through that, and with my dad. Helped me to learn more how to deal with, you know, my family and other situations and other people, you know. I don't got that so much of that Brooklyn, you know what I mean, in me, you know what I mean. You cross me or you think, you know, it's going to be on. You know, I have more of a peace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody step on my toe, I'm like, yo, you know what I mean? I'll be like, that's all right. You know what I mean? It's not that serious. That doesn't mean I'm gonna walk over now, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? But I'm gonna have a more peace, you know what I mean? Inner peace in me,
Yeah.
you know, to take on the challenges life is gonna bring at me.
Yeah.
And I can see, you know what I mean? This is what God wants. He's going to give us a little bit challenges, a little bit at a time,
Yeah.
because He's molding us and He's molding us, you know what I mean, to be in His heavenly kingdom.
So with that being said, what are some future plans that you have, you know, for yourself, for us as your family? What are some things that you see God's just been showing you, like this needs to get done, and, you know, just other things in general that, you know, has been goals?
Well, one of the things that well, you know, God had put on my heart, this was a few years before we went to Guyana, was to go out there and open air, preach the gospel. I don't even like to use the word preach because I don't even want to call myself a preacher. You know what I mean?
Well, I try to share the word. Pastor.
Yeah, share the gospel, you know, win souls, you know, and stuff like that. So when I realized that that's what God wanted me to do, I was like, man, you know, because I usually up for anything, you know what I mean? But that was tough, man. You know what I mean? With Him asking me to go out there and preach, not because I was afraid to do it, it's because I wasn't confident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I could go up there and somebody come and ask me these biblical questions, you know what I mean? And I'm like, you know, I'm out there representing God and I can't even answer some basic, you know what I mean, questions or whatever. So I was very timid, maybe a bit intimidated as well to be up there, because there are people up there they'll try to challenge you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But God said, go ahead. So it took me a while. Like, you know, a couple of years ago, I went out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were doing it. You know, then next thing you know, I got sick.
Yeah.
You know? And then I got sick and I realized how much the enemy it was battling me. You know what I mean? From going out there and spread the word of God, because I couldn't move. You remember, I couldn't walk. I was walking like I was 130 years of age, despite living that long.
Yeah. You talking about with the sciatic, or?
Yeah, not even the sciatic. I'm talking about the rheumatoid arthritis when we came back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Where
I
was
went
that
to
at?
do it. But the sciatic, you know, had me bedridden because we were supposed to go to Guyana. I remember having bedridden for like, 6 months?
Yeah.
I was stuck in my bed. I couldn't move.
Yeah.
You know, we can't even go to the bathroom. I had to crawl, all this type of stuff. And when I look back at these things, I said, man, Satan, when he was hitting me hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's when everything first started. Because now I'm going to do missionary work. Been a missionary in Guyana. Lost all this weight. You know what I mean? I'm going through this thing. Oh, that was the worst pain I ever felt. You know, pain. Lord have mercy. And the Holy Spirit spoke to me, and the Holy Spirit said, hey, if you don't go to Ghana, you'll never get over that sciatic pain. And that's what I told your mom, book the flight. She said, what about the sciatic? I said, book it.
Yeah.
And when she went to book the flight was so cheap. We couldn't believe it. You know?
And then what happened as soon as we got there too?
Right. As soon as we got there, within a week, 10 days, I was 97% better. Because I was afraid. I was like, man, Ghana don't have no type of, you know what I mean, medical, you know, me stuff there. I still like going there with a side. Because people tell me, Mark, will you go to Ghana with that pain? Are you going in the jungle? I was like, Lord, but I went on faith. God said go, and I went. You know what I mean? So I'm so blessed that I listened to him.
Yeah.
And we went there for a reason, you know what I mean? Our experience was good. I draw each and every one of us closer to God. You know what I mean? So when we came back here now, God put it on me again. You got to preach. You got to go out there and share the gospel. Okay, so I went and I did it. And, you know, next thing you know, my body is shutting down on me. Literally shutting down on me. You know what I mean? Like I'm being paralyzed. I mean, one time I was laying in the bed. I just got up, like I got up from here. I go to lay down. And my eyes to my left. And I go to turn my head to the left. I couldn't turn it. And
When was this?
Huh?
When was this?
When I had the rheumatoid arthritis.
No, I'm talking about like when? Like
in here.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe like 2 years ago. When I had rheumatoid arthritis.
Dang.
Yeah. And I was like, Maya, I can't move my head. She said, what? I said, I can't move my neck or my body. I literally couldn't move. I was literally powerless. If the house was on fire and I was there alone, I would have burned to death.
Dang.
You know what I mean? I couldn't move. So Maya said, okay, Dad, just take your eyes and look to your left. So I just went like that. I looked to your left. She said, okay. Now, keep looking. And she came and she started massaging my neck. Because I said, thank the Lord. She went and graduated with massage therapist. Some massage therapist. Yeah. And she rubbed and and then she got my neck. You know what I mean? I was able to move now. The rest of my body was. I literally paralyzed in the bed. I just went and lay down. You know what I mean?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you weren't home. You know what I mean? You at work. Yeah. So you know what I mean? And you remember how slow I used to walk?
Yeah, I remember
you know what I mean? If I'm gonna go out length of a football field, it took me about half an hour. You know what I mean? To walk a length of a football field. Yeah. That's how bad it was. You know? So, you know what I mean? Then I had the blood. We had no medical insurance because you remember. I had to wait and do a blood work, and the normal range for whatever the test it was, I tried. Man, was like 30 something, and I was like, 160 something, 190 something. That's how bad it was.
That's like 3 times.
Yeah, I was really, really bad. And that's when they say, yeah, you have rheumatoid arthritis, not just in your hand or whatever, but like all over my body. You know what I mean? I had it. So, we're a naturopath or whatever. So I started treating myself or whatever.
How's that treated?
I'd stay away from nightshade foods.
What are those specifically?
Those are like tomatoes, white potatoes, bell peppers, eggplant. You know what I mean? Those are some things I had to take out of my diet. You know what I mean? Because inflammation, you know what I mean, somehow builds up in my joints and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, that went through then I went through the whole winter and stuff. Then when I said, okay, good, coming on again for the summer, it's going to get warm now. I'm going to, when I'm going to do it. I'm going to go there.
Yeah. I'm starting to remember now. I'm starting to remember because I remember your blood was like rushing up from the hand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So then now, I was like, I'm going to do it, start to make arrangements and plans. The devil know about it. Next day, I end up with vertigo. I remember that. End up with vertigo. You know what I mean? When I getting up, I better get up very, very slow because this whole room just take off spinning. You know what I mean? And my head feel like it's 100 pounds lean on one side, and I was just lean on that side to fall. I had to like catch the wall or whatever. So that was another illness now the enemy come with me with now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Was with the vertigo. So for 2 years, the enemy was able to
crazy.
stop me. You know what I mean? From doing, what God told me to do and stuff like that. So I could still feel a slight, like if my head is still a little bit light at times, whatever. But, I could still walk, drive, or whatever. Rheumatoid arthritis, sometimes I feel a little stiffness here and there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But nothing from how it was, you know what I mean, to stop me. And I have a very determined, strong-willed spirit, very strong-willed spirit. You know what I mean? I think that would be the death of me. You know what I mean? But my spirit is so
Maybe.
strong. I don't know how to like give up or give in. You know what I mean? Same when we were in Kimbia, you know what I mean, the jungle there.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to get that piece of land the man promised me. So we would stay in Kimbia and do God's work.
Yeah.
If your mom had to turn to me, she said, Mark, you're fighting God. After I never thought of it. And when she said that, you know what I mean? It's like something came over me like, you're fighting me. And I just turned to him. I say, no, thanks for the offer, but you know what I mean? We're going to leave.
Yeah.
Because I had to know exactly where he stand that evening. Because we were coming out of the bush with the boat, the speedboat.
Yeah.
So I needed to know if I'm coming back in. You know what I mean? And he gave me all this excuse, his wife said this and that, and talked about the cow, all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then that's when your mother said to me, you know what I mean? She said, Mark, now you're fighting. She said, right now you're fighting God.
Yeah.
And when she said that, it was like a bell went off in my head. I'm like, you know what? You're right. And I thank him. And that's how we came out to the jungle, the bush.
I think that whole experience was crazy.
Yeah.
Just being out there, and it did teach a lot of patience. You know what I mean?
Oh,
You,
yeah.
me, everybody, to be honest.
Yeah, because, we wash our clothes at the river, bathe at the river, you know what I mean? All this type of stuff. We had internet, none of that stuff. It was a very subtle thing of living, but it was peace, you know what I mean? It was different, you know what I mean?
I mean, the city part was the part I think taught the most patience. But in regards to being out there in the country, it was like we were, in a sense, already prepared and set.
Yeah,
You know.
You know, maybe we are farming. You know what I mean? We're doing all these things. I think it was something else I wanted was to touch on with your question. I'm trying to remember what else I was gonna share.
With the street preaching?
Yes. Yeah. With the street preaching. So those 3 things that happened to my body, you know what I mean? And even when I look over our videos now and I can see how my body is, you know what I mean? I don't see that vibrantness in me, because I feel as though my body is always fighting. That's why it's so hard, you know what I mean, for me to get out of my bed, you know what I mean? Because I feel so tired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, man, we are fighting off stuff. And when I finished preaching, it's like if I ran a marathon or something, it's like it's so exhausting. But I'm doing God's work, it's a blessing. I feel I'm getting better at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm getting more and more comfortable. You know what I mean, in doing it. And I feel a sense of peace. And I'm feeling a sense of, like, I'm getting even more and more closer with Christ. You know what I mean? I feel that though I'm bonded even more and more with God. You know what I mean? Doing what He has called me to do. I mean, it took me some years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm doing it now. That is why I try to do it as often now as I can.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know, God said the work is plenty, but the laborers are few. And too many of our pastors or ministers, whatever you want to call, are preaching to the choir. Why? Because you preach it to those who already pretty much have the message, understand these last day message.
They got
You
the
know what I
Bible for
mean?
themselves at this point.
Yeah. So you know, now I really feel even more so now that I'm doing God's work. You know what I mean? And I have so much more ideas and stuff to implement in what I'm doing right now, to even add more to what I'm doing right now. You know, I want us to start helping out like mothers, you know, single parents,
Yeah.
you know, that is struggling with their children, with like clothes or whatever. Even at times, you know, when we go out there and spread the word of God, you know what I mean, to take like these little things that they need, the women stuff they need, you know, pads and soap and lotion, you know what I mean, these little things, because what I notice here in Atlanta, homeless people, they're not starving. You know what I mean? They're getting food, you know, but the little things, them
Like
sanitizers, hygiene stuff, you know, they need these things. And so I want to implement that also in our ministry, you know what I mean? Because, you know, those who watch our ministries, watchmen on the waters, you know, you know. And so, you know, I wanted to get bigger and bigger, get more and more support,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because I want to be able to even continue to do this even through the winter time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get a billboard that we could put outside, you know what I mean? If we get a lift truck fix or the van with a screen while I'm even saying the word of God. You know what I mean? Going through the streets and what have you and preaching that way. You know what I mean? Like how you was hearing it when you was in Guyana and the person coming through the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a thing or whatever. You know what I mean? I want to implement that as well and stuff like that. So I really want to start broadening it, and prayerfully we have more people, you know, that comes on our team. Because what I like, what we did is that we were able to, while I'm preaching, you know, people coming up to others as part of our team that was handing out literature and the books.
Yeah.
I was speaking to them, engaging with them, you know what I mean, asking them questions, they were answering questions, you know, give up prayers, you know what I mean. Some of them were asking for Bible study. I think like 2 people came, I know you have a Bible study with your group, you know what I mean, you know, and stuff like that. So the transition has been a really, really blessing because it helped me also to raise you guys different from how I was raised in terms of get you guys to know God, know your Creator, know how you're supposed to live your life, have Him your sole protector, your sole provider. Let you understand I'm just the tool that God used, you know what I mean, by giving you guys to me and your mom to take care of. But there's a standard, there's a way we're supposed to bring you guys up. You know what I mean? Which is to lead you guys to Him, so we all could be in heaven or whatever. So I'm so glad that He had brought me out of darkness into light. And I'm also raising my family in that light. And you guys are also being obedient, you know what I mean? And accepted that now I don't even have to force you guys, you know, you guys are of age, but you guys have learned so much, you understand so much that you guys are doing it now on your own. I mean, you have your own podcast, you have your Bible studies. I mean, there's how many times you went and you preach, you know what I mean? You know, in the church, you preach more than me. You know what I mean? I didn't think I ever preach in the church. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The church, them asking you to preach. You know what I mean? So it's been a wonderful, you know what I mean, journey that we're on. And it's also a blessing because I hope that what we're doing also bless others, bless other families. You know what I mean? Maybe the mother's struggling out there with her family, trying to get them into church. Maybe the dad, maybe both of them, or whatever it is. But what I would say to those families, don't give up. Continue to pray, pray, and pray. Because prayer is powerful. The enemy wants us to give up. The enemy wants us to fall short of God's glory and say, hey, man, I can't do this no more. Or why is this happening to me? You know what I mean? So one of the things that when stuff start happening bad to me, and I consider it bad, you know what I mean? I used to think about Job. Job was my go-to guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, man, if Job was dealing with all this stuff, and I even deal half the stuff Job was dealing with. You know what I mean? I have no excuse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where I looked at. I looked at Job. You know, I looked at others. You know what I mean? That was, you know, in the Bible, or those that were martyred. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the word of God. You know, because you first have to recognize that earth is not your home.
Yeah.
You know, we just passing through the sinful world, and our goal is heaven, which means we got to stay the course, stay on the straight and narrow path. You know, being Christ paid the price. He made a great sacrifice for each and every one of us, for us to be saved. And not only that, he bought us with his blood. We just got, you know, I was preaching, get off the shelf, get off the shelf.
Yeah.
We just got to get off the shelf. He bought us. We got to do our work, get off the shelves and follow him home.
Yeah. I was
That's
wondering
what we
why
gotta
you were
do.
saying that. I was talking to Brother Melville the other day. I was like, why are you saying get off the shelf? I didn't know what that was. But now I know what it means. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I meant. You know, he came in, he bought us, but we still sitting on the shelves. You know what I mean? Because we like it up there. Maybe the view is great. Whatever it is, you know what I mean? We're not getting off the shelves to get into his shopping bag or go home with him.
Yeah.
You know?
You gotta be used.
Right.
You gotta be used.
Yes.
Well, appreciate this talk with you, Dad. You know what I mean? This was a good first podcast. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have more because I didn't want to cover some other stuff, but I mean, don't want to make this too long. And,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Just cover some great stuff. So that being said, appreciate you being on here. Is there any final?
Yes. Your final words for those that are listening and, you know, be following your podcast. When it comes to the word of God, let him be your director, your directory, I should say, in your home. You know, you have the yellow pages. You know, back in the days, we had the yellow pages as a directory and stuff like that. You need something, you go and look into it. Let the Bible be that directory in your home. Every home should have a King James version. No other version of the Bible. And I'm going to get into that, why the King James version. But the King James version, that's the Bible you should be using and you should be studying, not just reading. Studying the Bible in a way that you're not looking to prove something you already believe. You're studying the Bible. Why? Because you want to hear what God is saying to you. You want God to lead you. And you ask the Holy Spirit. So you pray first for the Holy Spirit to give you clear understanding and guidance as you study God's word in your home.
All right, amen. Dad, appreciate that. Appreciate you guys for viewing this first podcast. This is gonna be many more to come. This is just the first one. I know I take a long time to shoot videos, but production, just gathering my thoughts together. Just pray for me so we can get more videos out to give you brothers out there more information on how to go about your life, your walk with God, and the sons of God, and have a blessed one. Thank you.